Wrestle with Jeff, prepare for death. Or at least an absolute flood of news as some sweeping changes were announced for both Overwatch and the League. I'm LaFawn, with me is Kenobi for Eloho Esports. Let's break it all down. If there was one complaint above all that the Overwatch player base had, Kenobi, it's that the devs were silent and slow in their approach to balancing the game, right?
Well, not anymore. If the latest developer update is anything to go by, Jeff Kaplan came out swinging today as the much-anticipated video was released detailing the future of balance patches and new features being added to the game.
New features?
Yeah, Jeff mentioned something they were called hero pools?
Right. Hero pools. I mean, the name sounds pretty obvious as to what it is kind of intended to be, a rotating selection of heroes that are available to be played at any one time. I should mention that this is limited to the competitive rule set, as all heroes will always be available in arcade and quick play. But what other specifics did Jeff have to share about how these heroes would be limited in the hero pools?
Well, we have some time to figure that out, as hero pools won't be introduced until the 21st season of competitive play. Essentially, hero pools will act like the current map pool. Every week, a few lovely heroes from the roster will be unavailable to play in competitive. The example Jeff gave us was a week that Sigma, Orisa, Mei, and Moira would be taken out of the pool and would force players to find new strategies. After that week, the hero pool will change, and we will have new heroes that will be unavailable to play for that next week.
Did Jeff mention how those heroes would be chosen from week to week?
He didn't mention it, but we do have some info on this when we get to talking about Overwatch League that might share some aspects with the competitive ladder play.
And that's not the only thing that was front and center in the update. As Jeff mentioned, that balance updates are becoming much faster than before, which I think is welcome. If things are going to be unbalanced, I'd rather it cycled quickly from patch to patch rather than getting stuck in a long-standing meta that gets stale.
I definitely agree with that.
All right, let's turn to Al now, though, because to the surprise of the entire competitive community, hero pools are coming to the League, starting not at the beginning of the season, but instead on March 7th.
Oh boy, they sure are, LaFawn.
Let's hold on a sec, though. Before we get into our reactions, let's first see how it differentiates from ranked play.
Well, in all honesty, it doesn't seem like it does. Not at much, at least. The only difference that we know that eligible heroes will be removed randomly based on play rate data from the previous 2 weeks of OWL matches. So only characters that are being regularly seen will be taken out.
Right. This would be an effective way of forcing heroes to cycle in and out. It should also be mentioned that no hero will be unavailable 2 weeks in a row, and that teams will learn about the ineligible characters a week in advance. These hero pools will also not apply to the midseason tournament, and neither the play-ins or the playoffs, including the grand finals. Kenobi, so now that we have the facts about hero pools, what has been the community reaction?
Well, explosive, to say the least. Players, coaches, media personalities, and fans were all quick to react as they do, and seemed to be mostly confused. The overwhelming sentiment seems to be, okay, I guess it makes sense for ranked, but isn't it the exact opposite of what you want in pro play?
Sure, and I mean, that's totally fair, but there have been others who have embraced the idea, including former pro and now OWL caster Jake, as well as Guangzhou Charge support Neptuno, both of whom have pointed out that now teams will have to rely on the versatility of their players' hero pools, as well as not having to worry about playing the perfect metagame, but rather executing on strategies thought up specifically for the heroes available at any one point.
Also, coaching is going to be even more important now than it has been before. Coaches as well as the other staff will have to keep on their toes at all times and navigate through the specific hero pools from week to week.
That's almost exactly what Arrow of the Dallas Fuel mentioned, as he highlighted this will encourage chaos and creativity between matches. However, Albion, who currently coaches for the British Hurricane in EU contenders, had basically the opposite opinion, where styles of play would take the forefront, as in, poke comps, rush comps, dive, etc. And even with the hero pools, we'd still get these flavors rather than a truly new approach to the game.
To add to that, Baroy, analyst for the Defiant, echoed Arrow as he thinks that this will highlight flexibility but diminish the true mastery that we've come to see from Overwatch League in the past.
And I would tend to agree with that. It seems unlikely that we'll ever see the true technical marvel of games like the Stage 1 and 2 finals from last season. I mean, no one can really forget, Shock versus the Vancouver Titans, some of the best play the Overwatch League has ever seen. Let's move on to our thoughts, though, because we have quite a few. And I think it's only fair to start with competitive integrity, Kenobi?
That's definitely a good place to start, LaFawn. One of the issues with this implementation of the hero pools is that they won't come into effect until March 7th. This means that essentially there is a month of regular, quote-unquote, Overwatch League before we go into hero pools. The games that are happening in that time span could have major implications at the end of the season, especially with each team only playing 28 games over the regular season. It just feels like that month will be heavily separated from the rest of the league play. And don't even get me started on the fact that hero pools won't be active for playoffs in the mid-season tournaments, LaFon.
I have serious reservations about that too, especially because it almost feels like the devs were hedging their bets. In fact, at the end of the news post, they even mentioned that if fans and players don't like it, they will consider adjusting the rule set. Again, while I'm okay with that for ranked ladder, in the professional environment, I just can't get behind different parts of the season being on essentially different games.
And we haven't even talked about practice. When it comes to scrims, you'll now only really have access to the teams at the homestand you're attending who you aren't playing. Your scrim partners will be extremely limited. So much pressure is going to be put on the coaches and the staff to scout and get an idea of what might work in such a short amount of time.
That's the other thing too. Teams only get 1 week's notice about which heroes will be unavailable. There just isn't a whole lot of time to react to changes. With the travel schedule, requirements of coaching, and now this research aspect, team staff are definitely going to be the unsung heroes of the teams trending to top this season.
This is all on top of the fact that Jeff mentioned that balance changes would be coming much more quickly than they have been in the past.
As in, 2 weekends after a patch goes to live, Owl move to the live patch fast.
A change that by all means is incredibly welcome and something that the community has wanted for a long time. Jeff specifically mentioned targeting the meta specifically, but how will they know what the meta is in Overwatch League when some of the heroes aren't even available to be played? Metas aren't made in just 2 weeks. They are tweaked and made over a longer period than that.
I think these are questions that can only be answered by having the games play out. In the moment, though, I want to paraphrase Surefour. Good teams will still be good and will probably still win. We've been talking about competitive integrity, but ultimately it probably won't affect the standings a whole lot. And if the end product is entertaining and the players don't burn out, then is that so bad?
The good teams will still be good, yes, but I think the standings will shift with teams who don't have the coaching, staff, or flexible players that the top tier teams have. San Francisco Shock will be fine, no doubt, but what about the rest of the league? Some of those teams aren't going to be sitting pretty like the Shock on top of the Overwatch League like they were last season.
In the words of my friend Bupasaurus, sometimes you have to hit an 11 to know what a 10 feels like, and I think this is where the devs hit that 11, and if they can dial it back just a tad, we'll be cooking with gas. An eventful day for Overwatch. What do you think about it all? Do you think flexibility will be the name of the game, or will teams play it even more safely in the face of the unknown? Let us know in the comments. And while you're there, make sure to like and subscribe and maybe check out one of our other videos, like our recent preview of the London Spitfire. Thanks for watching.